I'm so sorry, Adam, but you're fired.
Fired? Isn't that a bit on the nose?
I'm afraid there's just no more room for you on floor 13. There's also no more floor 13.
Oh yeah? Who are you gonna replace me with? A giant lava worm?
That's exactly who we're gonna replace you with. You know Shelby's been doing good in the mailroom. Plus, she's got a bite force of over 900 PSI. She'd be perfect for accounting.
What? I'm not from accounting. I make YouTube videos.
Oh, you're the janitor. Well, we need you on floor 13. There's lava everywhere.
No, seriously, I make videos on Sonic the Hedgehog.
How does that help us sell insurance?
I don't know, ask Progressive.
Look, kid, the only opening we got is the mailroom, and I'm not putting you with Shelby.
Why not?
Because she'd eat you, and I can't have her getting distracted. What if an envelope comes in? I don't know how to open that.
Just before you say anything else, let me prove my worth.
I don't want your phone.
No, the video on the phone. Check this out.
Congratulations!
You just got a front row seat to the apocalypse. And I'm your host, White Boy. Crisis City is a hell of a stage. Is it hell? No. But like, it's hell adjacent. We got a sprawling urban metropolis, slowly sinking into a molten core of Iblis evil. Winds whipping around, carrying cars and hedgehogs, and the roads suck too. There's one thing to say about this stage, is that it's dramatic. It's cinematic. It's fairly tragic, but very climactic, which is very bold for being levels 4, 3, or 1. It looks more end of the world than end of the world, and that's level 11. Needless to say, this stage was a shoo-in for Generations, because I believe it's got the most sauce out of any other 06 level. It might not have the layout, it might not have the gameplay, but oh my god, does it have the spectacle. Crisis City is an action blockbuster, and the high-stakes nature of the setting is needled into you at every corner. It cares about its moments. It is built to make you go, whoa. Drama is the name of the game, which is hilarious when compared with Generations. Our 2011 remix flips the action flick on its head because it's gameplay first here. Seriously, this stage attempts an entirely new layout, and a difficult one too. Gens had to take this early stage and flip it into level 7. Platforming is the name of the game here. It keeps the crisis to the side, but still brings out the hellish aesthetic through collapsing freeways and lava geysers. The spectacle bookends these gameplay moments, but it never takes away from the layout beneath your feet. Gen's Act 2 is getting spotlighted today, as we'll save Act 1 for a separate video in the far future, just so I don't squeeze that guy into single sentences, because I really like that level. But for 06, we're going deep, and above and beyond as well. Not only will we be looking at all 3 of our hedgehogs in the mid-2000s, but we will finally be comparing this messy title with its fixed fan remake, Project 06. I always try and focus on the original experience to the best of my ability, as far as not having a Dreamcast or a Genesis, so I'm typically going to separate fan remakes or mods from these comparisons. But you cannot talk about Sonic 06 without bringing up Project 06. And I know this, because I tried to do that, and got roasted for it. It's not a mod, it's not a mod. So every 06 inspection will get a P06 comparison at the end, similar to Speed Highway. But with 3 different hedgehogs crisising up this city, we gotta break down their routes, so we don't confuse ourselves during the analysis. If you wanna brave the confusion with no guide, then skip to this time posted above. But if you wanna know why Silver uses the same map twice, then gather around. So, what do you think?
Hold on, you're gonna be looking at PO6 too?
No, just the first. PO61.
I love PO6. I could play that thing for 26 minutes and 30 seconds. Check out the run at Summer Games Done Quick 2024.
Okay, that I will.
You know, kid, I think we can make some room for you in the company.
Really?
Oh yeah, we're gonna let you flourish, and I think I know the perfect place.
Not a lot of mail these days.
Yeah, no shit. I'm sorry, Shelby. I just set up this whole breakdown thing, and now no one gets to see it.
What about accounting? They love that boring stuff.
There is no more accounting. They fell into the lava.
Oh god, all those bodies floating around, and it's not even lunch yet.
Oh, now who's gonna let me waste their time?
Well, how about you show me?
You'd really want to see it? Even if you don't have any eyes?
Don't worry, my eyes are in my mouth.
Ha! Me too! Alrighty then. Gather around. Okay, stay with me here. Crisis City is a level in Sonic 06. We got that. You play through it 3 different times, as Sonic, Shadow, and Silver. Crisis City, the level, is comprised of 6 different maps that are separated by loading zones. Now, already, things are gonna get funky. If we named these 6 maps in the same order the soundtrack does, then it goes Flame, Skyscraper, Whirlwind, Tornado, which is 4 names for 6 maps. And in a strange order too, the song when Sonic outruns a tornado and says the word tornado is called Whirlwind, and the one where he platforms inside a linear whirlwind is called Tornado, which is swapped for Shadow. He gets Whirlwind in the whirlwind, but Tornado on the ground. Not with the highway, but with the city. But also Shadow's Whirlwind is different from Sonic's, not the song, but the map, which is map 6 when Sonic's is map 4. Sonic's Whirlwind run from the tornado is actually map 5. It just gets messy. So I'm gonna truncate some things so we don't lose our minds.
Wait, who's Sonic?
Let's just keep going. We'll use 5 maps instead, with one of them being a variant. Our first 2 maps we'll keep as is, and call them Flame and Skyscraper, just like the soundtrack. Map 3 is when Silver platforms in the city, so we'll call that one City. Map 4 is when Sonic and Shadow go in that fiery whirlwind. We'll call that Whirlwind. That one gets the variant. And map 5 is when Sonic outruns the tornado on the highway. We'll call that Highway.
Why don't you just call it Tornado?
Because we're just trying to keep it simple. What are you even doing down here?
You left your phone upstairs.
You know, I totally did. Thank you. Okay, 3 characters, 5 maps. Who gets what? Sonic gets Flame, Skyscraper, Whirlwind, Highway. Shadow gets Flame, Skyscraper, Whirlwind variant, City. And Silver starts in City, goes to Skyscraper, and comes back to City to finish. Now, since Sonic 06 likes to swap routes and directions for each character, let's get specific with the maps, starting with our first. Flame. Sonic snowboards down the whole time from top to bottom. Shadow drives through the same exact course in a buggy. But the buggy is not required. You can take it normally if you so choose. Silver doesn't have his learner's permit, so he doesn't show up on Flame. Cool. First map down. We're doing good already. On to Skyscraper. Both Sonic and Shadow follow the exact same route here. They travel from the top all the way to the bottom. Now let's hold off on the 2 hedgehogs as they exit and instead switch over to City. This is where Silver starts his level, all the way at the bottom.
Hey, he used to work here.
Silver used to work here.
Yeah, he was a temp hire. Then he dropped everything and ran off with his girlfriend. What was her name? Shadow?
Listen, let's get back to the map. Silver platforms his way up to the stationary tornado here and springs out at the top. Now Silver is actually going to spring into the Skyscraper map, but he immediately switches into Blaze. As Blaze, you navigate Skyscraper backwards, but only halfway, where she will spring out to the next loading screen. That's everyone's journey in Skyscraper, so we can officially cross that one off the list. Now let's hold off on Black and Blue and keep following Blaze, who loads right back into City. Blaze immediately swaps back to Silver, who finishes his level here by running through the second half of City. Now on our right. Also, I could not find this other half of City on any of Sonic Retro's materials, so I just did my best and scribbled my own thing.
Hey, that's not too bad. Can you draw me next?
Sure.
I'm probably too hard to draw. You can sketch me later.
Yeah, anyways, this is where Silver officially ends his level, and we're done with him. But not with City. We'll come back to this one later. For now, let's finally return to Sonic and Shadow, as they bounce into Whirlwind. It's essentially a big vortex of fire with floating debris. Sonic runs through it on his feet, and Shadow soars through it in his glider. Sonic's variant has platforms, Shadow's just has obstacles for him to bonk into. And that's Whirlwind. Both variants. Not too bad, huh? Now let's pause on Sonic and follow Shadow, because he's going to transition to Silver's hometown, City.
You know, that's my old neighborhood. I used to sleep in that magma pit.
No kidding. I slept in the one right across the gorge.
Guys, focus. Shadow starts where Silver first started his level, but instead of springing away from the tornado, he rail grinds past it and enters the second half of City, where Silver wrapped up his stage. He can also drive a car if he so chooses. And that's where Shadow finishes his level. Sonic never visits City, so we can wrap that up. And he instead ends his journey on Highway. This is our famous Mach speed section, which handles so well. Only Sonic is sprinting through here, so he just goes from left to right and dies like 50 times. But that's where Sonic finishes his level. And that's all of our hedgehogs. So let's keep things simple and summarize. Sonic goes snowboard, normal, normal, Mach. Shadow goes normal or vehicle, normal, vehicle, normal or vehicle. And Silver goes normal, Blaze, normal. And that is Crisis City 3 different ways in Sonic 06.
Wow, Adam, that took a long time.
Thanks.
Kid, it's clear you gave this a lot of effort. You should get out there and make that comparison.
You think so?
Quite literally. You're fired.
Thank you. I better suit up. But wait, what are you two gonna do?
I'm gonna eat all your pictures.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I don't want to interrupt that. Well, I guess it's finally time to brave the apocalypse and compare Crisis City. Oh, Crisis City. So much to talk about. But first, we gotta speak on the music, because it's very good. All of Sonic 06's music is very, very good, but this track is my fave, precisely because it feels so blockbuster. Even those first 6 notes sound like climactic stingers, ripped from a big movie soundtrack. And then it's a meld of symphony and drums, drama and action, as that 6-note stinger creeps up on you more and more, until finally you hear what they're trying to say. That main melody of Crisis City sounds like cars and boulders crashing into a collapsing freeway. Each note is Sonic barely dodging them. I see him on that halfpipe, on that part. Soon, we get that robotic drone, and we're on to the next section, where the strings are singing more triumphantly. How fun. And yet, you still got that electronic beat that flares up and down like a fire. A violent guitar starts mirroring the symphony until our beats throw us into that Mach speed portion of the song, and it cranks up the speed. Shit is going haywire, and it's about to get even more haywire-y, literally. That robotic drone pulls us through the intro, and once again, the electronic beat pulses louder than our symphony. Radical. Meanwhile, the guitar is just losing it completely. Someone is tearing that poor thing in half, until every instrument hits the strings together, and we get our finale, the last portion of the song, and we are feeling confident. A horn wails, guitar finally composes itself, and takes the center stage. Now we're cooking, and we're not looking back. The ending is so determined. It pairs perfectly with Shadow and Silver's finale, and Sonic's whirlwind survival course. It's the kind of rhythm that pushes you forward. It's resolute and heroic, until finally the strings float into the ending and cushion us as the guitar hits that last note. While all these song chunks are used in different areas, they're all achieving the same thing, a cinematic, symphonic score, which mirrors the action in the scene, which is incredible how much it can be applied to all these different scenarios. It's dramatic through the orchestra and driving through the beat, but still holds that radical Sonic spirit through the guitar. However, they did not use the guitar in Generations. They went full symphony here, and yes, I'm gonna use symphony and orchestra interchangeably, like a huge asshole. Generations uses strings for nearly everything in its remix, which turns the aggressive track into something much more limber. The song ebbs and flows. It's not poking and prodding you along. The vibe is still dramatic, as they hammer in those familiar stingers with the strings, but there's a lot of quiet this time around, and they mainly let the violin, guide you through the song. The beat is definitely still there though. It punctuates a lot of the graceful parts of the track, just to remind you where you are. It's pretty remarkable though. I feel like this song differs the most from the original, out of all the Act 2 tracks, which is very reminiscent of how the Gen's rendition of the level differs entirely from the original Crisis City. But enough teasing you with it. Let's finally jump into the full comparison and start ripping apart this stage. Let us begin with an 06 original, and our first map, Flame. Generations will catch up with us after our next loading screen, but in the meantime, Sonic and Shadow need to skate down the Steel Board Summit. It's called Sonic 06, ain't it? So let's start with the blue guy. And check out that initial shot. It's so empty. I believe the camera is placed here to pull off this swing, but boy does our first image look bare bones. The rail comes out of nowhere and our only building is flatter than paper. No jagged beams or nothing. Immediately, I get the sense that Crisis City is unfinished. There's a lot of room on this side. A decimated landscape on our bottom right could have placed us in the setting. Perhaps the tornado. Maybe this rail curves from the left building? Something more diegetic, you know? Whatever. Let's get our camera swing. Ah, there we go. Now that we see more of those supports, the rail feels natural. It also curves into this carved out portion of the building, introducing us to the space. Soon you're skating down a toppled skyscraper, staining glass with a piece of rusty metal. It's a sick visual. The falling cars add to the crumbling climate, but you also literally see them spawn in and hang there. Another issue is Sonic screaming about a city in flames, when we only get like 2 little embers. More flames emerge as we progress, but the draw distance isn't showing them this far back. Where's the crisis, you know? And let's quickly go over the handling of Sonic's little sheet board, because it's bad. There is no sense of control. It just zooms forward permanently, downhill and uphill. And even when you do turn, you risk snailing in place. It makes this first portion seem automated because there isn't much you can experiment with. They do have the ramps to access other areas, however, the jumps become fixed once you take off, and there is no air control. You will graze item boxes and rails without activating them. So instead, let's treat this as a fun amusement park ride. A cinematic stunt show spectacular. If you grind into the buildings, they put on a performance. Windows shatter, flames engulf the tight corridor. They even put in a little slow-mo for us, can you believe it? The craters on the collapsed buildings are much less effective. While they do act as hazards, the explosions are too transparent, and you just see those pimples pop in instead of erupting as we imagine. Now, the second grind is much more harrowing, as they included some animatronics on this thrill ride. The worm here even bursts in with a shockwave, and they drop a boulder at our exit. Keep your hands inside the vehicle, Sonic! Now, avoiding these tunnels gets you very little in terms of spectacle, and neither does the following section. More pimples, taxicab flambe. But yo, check it out, it's half-pipe time. I love the look of this thing. I swear, such an obvious Sonic slope, yet still dressed up in that rusty grimdark design. Dare I say, it's Crisis City's main signifier apart from the tornado. You see it in Jens' white space too. 2 Iblis takers follow you through, and dodging the surprise appearances from the worms finally adds some challenge, especially within the small confines of the pipe. We are now actively gaming, and we are now in our most open area. Taking the bottom path gives us the chaos we're craving. Shit is just blowing up. While I love the look of the levitating skate park, using it can be a challenge with Sonic's fixed motion. Shredding it successfully will carry you over a ton of worms. Congratulations. The environment ends strong, however, splitting us into 2 half-pipes this time, but also allowing us to grind on the guardrails. Fits in with the setting, but also saves our ass on these last curves. But before you know it, hard loading screen, and we're out. The layout of this thrill ride is fine as it is. However, Sonic's wonky board control will most likely have you skating off the edge, or missing all your moments. Looks cool, controls horribly. Sonic the Hedgehog, 2006. So let's ditch the board and hop onto the buggy for Shadow's ride. Dark and Stormy spawns in already at the wheel. I hate the control of all of Shadow's toys, and this one is no different. The buggy is much easier to handle than other vehicles, but it's too bouncy and honestly too fast for map 1. Laying down on the gas can have you exploding with the spectacle. While the 4 wheels help with the geometry, it can easily snag on a rock and tumble you down the road. The large vehicle was not made for this snow slope. You are served tanky enemies and large debris to blow up, so keeping your hands at the wheel is encouraged. I always end up slowing down to survive the summit, which is not how you want to engage with this theme park ride. Unlike Sonic, however, Shadow can disconnect his legs and take it on his feet. This basically guarantees you all the shortcuts, but Shadow's reduced speed will have you crawling past all the cool. Besides upping the enemies, the rest of the course is fairly similar, except for the ending, which blocks you with pipes and lizards, forcing Shadow to continue on foot and actually letting you see where these dash pads go, as he flies around a big steel loop. Hooray! Like with Sonic, the construction of this course is not the problem, it's the playstyle. We're all on board for the concept of this ride, we just need these guys to work correctly. So, with all that in mind, let's see how the project handles Steelboard Summit. Dare I say, wonderfully! PO6 remains faithful by keeping the board automatic, but the side-to-side motion now feels natural, allowing you to engage with the near misses and swerve by the explosions. You also get a little kick to redirect yourself, even if you do slip up. The jumps have animations, and while the landing is still pretty tight, you do have air control to nudge yourself into the rails. Shadow's run has no buggy at all. You must take it on your feet, and I love that. The no buggy thing, not the feet. With Shadow's restored speed and spin dash, the obstacle course stays stimulating. The visuals in general got a huge upgrade. A deeper contrast makes the city look less flat, and the render distance actually props up Sonic's first line. The whole city is actually on fire now. Our explosions are harsher, so they mask the craters, and without all that slowdown, the action is stable, and our thrill ride doesn't stop. So all in all, Steelboard Summit is a very sick introduction to this action blockbuster, mainly because our hedgehogs take it so confidently. They're not sorrowfully marching down the road, they're stunting on it, which in turn keeps the player confident. Even at the end of the world, these guys are still looking cool. Now, the illusion breaks in an instant when you try to move them in 06, because you will most likely send these cool-looking guys off a cliff. This forces you to take it safe on your next spawn and avoid the playground. But with Project 06's fixes, engaging with the layout is now manageable, and the drama is enhanced by all the visual fine-tuning. Regardless of the version, the feel of this intro is very radical. It's a movie intro for a movie level, and to me, it features the main iconography of this zone. When I think of Crisis City, I think of sideways skyscrapers, half-pipe roads, and the tornado, wherever he is. And it uses up all of Flame just to sell the scene, which already takes care of the first map, and we're off to the second, Skyscraper. But let's suspend the hedges in loading screen hell, and take a drastic shift over to a whole separate map, City! Silver is touching down, and we gotta see how he makes his entrance. But also, this upcoming area bears a striking resemblance to the start of Gens, which means we're gonna get weird and look at both at the same time. In this next section I'm gonna call District Destruction. So this might be a strange place to start with the gens, on Silver's level, but I believe that's what Sonic 11 is pulling from here. The layout is obviously different, but there are a lot of aesthetic similarities. Both begin in a boxed street, soon transitioning into collapsing freeways, multi-tiered platforming, and higher routes that climb over punishment paths. But their main connection is that they are both really strong intros, which demonstrate the gameplay of their respective levels. And real quick, Shadow technically goes through this map as well, but he uses it as his final chunk, and I don't want to jump out of order already. So we'll save his journey through here for later, and instead focus on just Silver. And let's start with the boy himself. This section is very important, because it's Silver's first, ever! The obstacle course is designed to teach you how to both fight and problem solve with Silver's techniques, which means it's littered with rubble and features a lot of platforms to climb up, and cars to dodge, believe it or not. The tornado attacks this early, but you create your own walkway up and march over this toppled building. This sideways skyscraper even gets referenced in classic Sonic's Adventure, but you don't run through it here. Instead, it's a shooting gallery and a physics demonstration with this pipe. The goal is to cross this fire gorge, and if you keep straight, you achieve this with similar beats. But you can also cut your adventure in half by flying over to this rooftop, which is a nice example of how we can use Silver's levitation to search for shortcuts. They want you flying around. They'll reward you for exploring. Either way, your beam springing again, and it's over to the next block. This one works just like the first, combat trial below, platforming trial above, and once you reach the top, we see the ever-present tornado trailing us, as well as an odd set of grind rails. We'll come back to those later, because right now we're feeling the height, as we do our best to levitate the thinnest objects to float our way over to the end. And for Silver's first foray, I honestly don't have any problems with it. I have a lot of problems with Silver, for sure, but I think his intro level perfectly demonstrates how you use this guy. It has a great sense of verticality in a city full of skyscrapers, demonstrating how Silver floats trash to move up. You have plenty of ammunition to test out your psychokinesis, and it even features some shortcuts if you start experimenting with his levitation. Basically, you are using Silver's powers a lot, as you should. And in a stage designed like this, his speed doesn't bother me, because there's something to do at every step. I kinda need to slow down to make it on those cars and tubes. So I appreciate it here. A positive start. But the project wants a turn. Let's see what it's got. And visuals was not on my bingo card. But holy hell, things are looking outstanding. Sets the adventure at night like the cutscenes, it puts your nemesis up front, and these two look stone cold with the new animations. Yeah, time to punch a tornado. What follows is pretty similar, but now we get to control Silver with so much more grace, which almost gets in the way of itself. I love Silver's new speed, let me say that up front, but I slipped up a bit when platforming on these small objects. That being said, I believe his updated movement is essential for enjoying like all the other stages. Crisis City is just built so specifically around his slow pace, so this is the rare time where it screws me over. What picks this back up again is the new use of the camera. It's much farther back, so we can see where we're sending Silver. It also aids with the vibe of the setting. Silver is dwarfed by the metropolis around him, which makes this crisis much more daunting. The layout of Silver's district was fine as is. His combat and movement just wasn't as engaging. Both versions are effective, I just like controlling this guy more, even with his faster movement. I also like the nighttime, I think it looks dope. But now that Silver has set us off on the city map, let's pause him for a while and switch over to Jens, who is finally stepping down in the fiery streets of hell. Happy birthday, Sonic, remember this fucking place? Alright, Generations' big focus is gameplay this time around, which means we don't get a lot of intro. You're smacking birds in like 2 seconds. But even before that, we get a quick shot of the cracked city skyline. And when we look down, we get a lot of lava at our borders. Keep that in mind, it's important. Otherwise, we immediately get a launch line for our boost, which will let you combo over a gap and into a trick jump panel. Now we're served our first taste of 3D platforming, Jens' big trick. Let me say up front, I don't love 3D platforming in boost games, and I doubt I'll be able to offer any technical critiques or analysis here. I just move forward, that's me. But even for my bingo bongo brain, I still enjoy this design because it's very functional with your speed. Platforms are long, aka you don't need to stop completely and can make your jumps in motion. Another combo chain will keep you off the ground up into our second straight. Again, platforms with room to navigate. Bingo bongo brain boy feels pretty good jumping from right to left casually, plus he can do some boosts when he's fed a peanut, and even when Brain Boy hit the floor, he can easily climb back up again. Brain Boy wonder if freeway launch? No. Wait, does lean offer airtime for poor Brain Boy? Brain Boy try, Brain Boy fly. Success for Brain Boy, peanut party at the Big Brain Bonanza. If you like this section, I'm so sorry. Look, it works and encourages speedy shortcuts. What can I say? Once I take my pills, we're on to our final stretch. You get 2 tilted scrapers rubbing up against each other, which gives us this little window to our objective. A big loop looking for shoes. You can safely home your way straight, but we gotta attempt that slant, right? A fun one too, as banking around this gap will let you jump right to the end. And let's save the loop for later and speak on Generations' first district, now. Even with my adversity to boost platforming, I enjoy when the routes are designed as cut-up runways. The streets are long, and you never have to fully stop and wait for anything, which means it offers up a flow that is easy to grasp, but hard to perfect. Although visually, I will admit, it's a bit bare. All of Crisis City suffers from this in Generations. It's only apparent because the original is so damn cluttered. Here it looks like a snowplow pushed everything to the sides. But Gens cares more about using lava, and we'll see that featured more as we progress. The biggest thing I want to speak on here is how it creates a new layout. Crisis City makes a stand as being a level. It cares much more about how it plays rather than what it's referencing. It borrows a lot of aesthetic elements of Silver's district, but keeps its construction entirely of its own creation, and it immediately presents the focus of the level, platforming, which is exactly what Silver's stage does in 06, problem solving. Both of these environments are like thesis statements for the rest of their acts. Nice, tight Silver gameplay, broad boost platforming wearing a Crisis City dress. Two fabulous starts, both in two Sonic archetypes that I don't particularly enjoy. Nice work, games. Okay, we're gonna suspend Gens there in the air. As for 06, Silver is flying away to a loading screen, and we're gonna let him soar. But two other hedgehogs are soaring as well, and they're about to hit a rail section. And let me tell ya, these boys ain't just grinding down. They are raising hell. Quit goofing around, you two. The city is in crisis. After the loading screen, the happy couple is on to the second map, Skyscraper. And we're gonna focus on their early rail section here, because it's the most you get in this entire level. Let's start with Sonic, who catapults out of this nondescript earth chunk and lands on a girder. But hey, rail grinding. And hey, no rail switching. We'll circle back to that later. In the meantime, Sonic will just have to hop in home if he wants to swap. These two fire bats will track you. One of them warps away, but I never knew what happened to the other one until I slowed the footage down, and I think you run him over? He hits your shoes and screams. Then no more Iblis Taker. Anyways, once our rails split up, we're greeted with a beautiful sight, the bottom of the city. This is the first time you catch the lava in Sonic 06, and you're probably not going to see much else of it for the rest of the level. Now, our beams will diverge into a bunch of separate paths. Unfortunately, there isn't too much incentive in switching it up here. They all lead to the same area. It just depends on what you want to collect before you get there. Rings, medals, rainbow swirls, pick your flavor. Taking the ring will drop you onto some collapsing freeways with some very strange positioning. You drop on the edge of the boundary, which almost makes me think this was supposed to have a grindable guardrail like we see later on. Regardless, all routes lead to this block of enemies, but you can just spring past them if you hate combat and your name is Adam. Cool. Now how about Shadow? Shadow the Hedgehog. We'll be quick with Shadow because it's virtually identical. Only this time, more enemies. Get used to that. And that last encounter is forced. However, on his start, you are required to rail switch because there are bats in your way. No running over these guys. You gotta awkwardly jump and then land back on the rail. With no reticle, you just gotta hope for the best. I'm surprised they kept this in while they kept rail switching out. It feels like I interrupted the set piece myself when I'm just working with what I got. Otherwise, Shadow unlocks his cage and moves right along, but we won't, because I want to see this place in Project 06. Holy shit, it's Sonic the Hedgehog! Right off the bat, they kept the fire tornado in view. It's blink and you miss it, more effectively used later, but it is there, as is our second bat. You don't run him over anymore, and the two birds do a fun little twirl before blinking out of existence. And hey, rail switching, as God intended. This comes more in handy during Shadow's run, as you're no longer required to kill the enemies and can just dodge them instead without slowing down. And hey, guess what? There are finally some ramifications for your rails. Staying up high will now rainbow ring you over the worms below, aka taking the top path skips an encounter, a Sonic specialty. Shadow still has to scrap it up, but with the wide camera angle, this is just another chance to have some fun with the updated combat system. I do want to mention that this Sonic skip is taken from the hard variant of Crisis City, which makes me wonder if other changes in PO6 are variant swaps. Either way, I think it's very essential here, as it makes the routes meaningful. In the end, visually I'd say both versions are accomplishing the same thing in raising hell. Without any hard pavement beneath us, it gives us a clear view into the depths of the city, the lava swallowing it whole. You get the sense as you start Skyscraper that the city is sinking. Gameplay-wise, Project 06 makes this part playable with consequence. Good consequence. But in terms of the hit film Crisis City, Racing Hell feels like the next step in our string of high-octane moments. You rode over destroyed buildings before, now you're grinding over hell. When the focus is the spectacle, this segment excels. The Skyscraper map has only begun, and it's got a lot to go. But we're gonna again pause 06 and switch back over to Gens.
Dude, wait!
Ah! What are you doing here?
You left your phone in the building. Also, there was another tremor, and we lost the mailroom, so You're fired.
Didn't you already fire me?
No, I fired you from accounting. Now you're fired from the mailroom. But you can still be the janitor if you stop leaving your things out.
I think I'll just stick with the comparison. Thanks. Modern Sonic has just circled the loop and is on to our next platforming section, the Simmering Sky Bar. Our next chunk of jumping, and Bingo Brain Boy is excited to hop. I'm not gonna do that again, don't worry. Right away, we have some pretty high platforms. They look like they can be cleared in one jump, but you'll have to march up individually to get to where you're going, or boost at your apex. Of course, our first grouping of enemies gives us a fun home to the top, which feels good if we had to jump earlier. This building is also deliberately shoved to the left of your screen. Before you hit the floor, you can plan your attack. But visually, on our right, we get a deep look at these ripped up structures, reminiscent of the one we're jumping up now. Once we home up the worm, we get a lot more lava. The spicy sauce floats to the top in gens. The platforming can be tough if you're trying to keep a consistent speed, because it gradually decreases the size of the platforms as you cross the lava. Big flat floor, stretched out step, tiny tower. Finally ending with some safety slabs in case you go swimming. These slabs can also catch you if you're trying to skip the area with a boost. It fits with both playstyles, speed freaks and platform pals. Now this multi-spring ahead is actually referencing a building chunk coming later in 06. While the 06 one sends you higher and farther, the gens one quickly transfers you to the next platforming challenge. Again, you get a tricky balancing act across shrinking platforms. Left side is safer, but you take more steps, which interrupts your flow. Our right side dazzles us with some 10 rings, but the concrete is tiny, and those final slabs drop so fast. Climbing to the final tower is tough, but you're rewarded with a quick shortcut to our next section. And that lava just don't stop. Now it dominates the floor. The floor is lava. Whoa. Now, there is one last secret here that confuses even me. If you drop off the left side of the lava, you'll find a wide spring waiting at the end of this area. I couldn't find anywhere else this thing connected to. I imagine it gives you the ability to boost off to the left and home into the spring, skipping the lava entirely? ? It's still tough to pull off, and many have probably learned how to boost over the top anyways, so I do wonder if there's a broader use for this thing. If you know, please do tell me, because I'm stupid. But that's our 3 elevations of jumping. What's it doing altogether? This is a later level, and we're finally getting some actual challenge in 3D. We tasted it before in the district, but here you really gotta focus on where you're aiming. The landings are small, the risk is great, but it is manageable in constant motion, and I really like that. I don't think it tricks you unfairly on the jumps. However, it does remind you to keep your momentum in mind if you're trying to act cocky and go hopping around. You can test your own abilities and mark which platforms work best for you, which I think is cool. It's interesting to note the difference here, though. You are no longer insta-killed for missing a landing, like before. Instead, you'll scorch yourself, but have the option to try again. This is level 7, but this is still generations, and dead stopping you is the last thing it wants to do. For more technical platforming pals, this can be viewed as a crutch, so experimenting with your boost is a big motivator. It's specific heights of geometry that you can take slow or rocket past. So if you're following along, Crisis City starts with long cut-up runways over bottomless pits, and transitions to short varying platforms over survivable lava. 2 flavors of 3D platforming in one stage, and within 1 minute. Neato. Bravo to the Simmering Sky Bar. And to Jens, who keeps making up new stuff. Before we hit this big curved building, however, we need to pull 06 back into the mix, as a bunch of crazy hedgehogs twist around this upcoming cylindrical building. Contour Incorporated. Everyone gets this dang building. Sonic 06, Shadow 06, Modern Sonic, even Classic Sonic takes the tower, and that's it. Sorry, Silver. But we just got a face full of generations. Let's switch back to the past, when Sonic was just 2006 years old. Back in the past, the game seems to hide this building, kinda, sorta, maybe. The freeway ramp deliberately covers it until we spring up, and then you take in all its contoured glory, and the column that it lives on, as the camera points down for our rail. The climb up is pretty direct after this. Thankfully, they make these thin lines easy to navigate, and you're out in no time. But, I never realized this, but if you miss your spring and drop below, you can tilt your camera and find a safety path that routes you back up. The camera is busy showing us the city on our right side, so it's pretty hard to notice this. Once you hit this dash pad, however, you get a very jarring cut of Sonic springing up and out of Contour Incorporated. Now, how about that ultimate life form? Get this. More enemies. Don't act too surprised, but I love Shadow's climb much more because you can pull off a very neat trick. After our first worm, we can grab this item pod and get to work on the second. This guy always felt so awkward to me because you can't catch what's around him nor how to finish your attack. There is a light speed trail, but even when you wrangle the worm, you literally only see 1 ring of it. However, since our attack propels us up, we can actually transfer up to the rail on top of us. It's a really neat shortcut that again reminds us that this game could have used a homing reticle. Shadow gets the same jarring time cut, and we're out as well. But let's stay in this moment and see how the project takes it. Hey, almost identically. Besides our classic bombardment of visual touch-ups, the pathing here is cut and paste. But I caught two things. One is the camera shot on our spring up for Shadow. It captures more of the lava. Looks like Shadow is flying over the depths of hell. The other is that you take that interior spring slowly this time. No more jarring camera cut. An appropriate way to track our hogs. But before we go over the in-core, let's have Generations take a final stab at it. I imagine most people will come from the top because you kind of have to go out of your way to not hit this wide spring. Down there, we get a collapsible freeway and a pulley. But up here, we get two long platforms and one very annoying fire spout. I swear, they know, man, they know. You can skip over all of these if you took the right path back by our lava pools. Regardless, we again have a staggered platforming section with two routes. The gameplay here is very similar to the start of the level. The platforms are the same stretched out safety pads, which lets you catch them on the go. Our concrete goes different directions depending on your route. Top goes left to right, bottom goes up down. You risk waiting down below, but also they added some safety lizards, so it kind of flattens the difference. However, the top route lets you boost into the rings, if you hate jumping, and your name is Adam. Visually, things are a bit dark and closed off at the start, but halfway through, that second building will stand out in this open space, and you see a lot of that critical city, along with this droopy freeway. Again, Jen seems very focused on the bottom of the location, and loves to show off all that magma. But that's 4 play-by-plays back-to-back. Let's analyze. For God's sake, please! Crisis City does not make this as big as a moment as I'm trying to make it. It really is just like a circle and that's it. But the reason I liked it, even as a kid, is because the cliffs were narrow, and it felt risky. It's quite operable for 06. There are no enemies for us to run blindly into. Instead, they're used to save us. However, the camera is performing here as well. Look how much room there is over here. It takes up like 3/4 of the screen. And since you circle around this building, you get to see so much. You can catch the next area before your spring, and you get burning buildings far and wide. 06 seems to care much more about showcasing the vibe of the city rather than setting this building as like a platforming challenge. But that's exactly what Gens does. The environment around the buildings is much more bare bones, but a fast flow through platforms is always the focus of Generations. It's manageable and it doesn't interrupt. If we look at the stage as a whole, Gens hits us with 3 alternating platforming sections back to back. District Destruction is wide and long. Simmering Skybar is tight and narrow. And then Contour Encore is back to long. There's a rhythm to the navigation, which divides all your platforming chunks. So our cylindrical building takes a big swing between the two versions. Both 06 and Gens successfully vibe check Crisis City, but both play drastically different. One is a vertical, narrow skyscraper showcase, and the other is a horizontal platforming lava looker, if that makes sense. As I said at the start, focus on the moment, focus on the gameplay. I'd rather look at 06, and I'd rather play Gens, but I'm smiling through both. Alright, Generations is about to take to the sky, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Instead, let's zero back in on 06. Both of our hedgehogs are going to take a rail curve and speed down a highway. And this is the highway where you can grind on the guardrails. Enjoy that for like 4 milliseconds. The goal is this next combat rooftop, and you can even get there quicker by homing these lava bats and entering the rainbow hole. Now ultimately greeted with the crisscross building bounce we witnessed in Gens during the Simmering Skybar. And this thing is going to take us over to our next segment, and we got a new friend joining the fold as we meet Blaze the Cat on the Haywire High Rise. Well, we'll meet her later. First, we got a bunch of skyscrapers to run through. And you know who likes to run? Sonic, the Hedgehog. Now, the start of this section is pretty automated. Once you hit the dash pad, your restraints lock in and the roller coaster starts. Sonic soars to a rooftop, circles around it with some sharp turns. That one's in Classic Sonic 2, by the way. Chases this explosion into a skyscraper and misses all these rings. Funny enough, the rings do aid us visually. Sonic stands out against the bright yellow Cheerios, so we're quick to catch him in the cut. And he just zooms right by us as the camera clips through a wall and hands us back the controller. Now we actually get to game, and Crisis City is again putting us in a skyscraper. Crossing the pit is no biggie, and we pan over to this vertical rooftop. And it looks like this highway should collapse to let the physics objects roll, but it holds strong. This lets you easily jump onto this rail and hit the spring, which turns us right back around. Why would it do that? It's because the spring is for down there, but without the road going down, you don't go down there yourself. It really looks like this thing takes you above, but it just plops you right back where you were. Regardless, we get more beams and more enemies. Lastly, we have this tower of springs, which gets faster the further up you take it. Nab one at the top, and you're immediately on the move. With the next dash pad, you dash ramp over to a loop, and Sonic is out of the Haywire high rise. But before I start overanalyzing, let's put Shadow on the high rises. Shadow's route actually does something really crazy. It puts more enemies in there. Jokes aside, it at least adds to the harder edge of his campaign. It is not functional, but it at least looks cool. That's good for Shadow. Shadow. Once we get our controller back, things are pretty similar up until the highway, but on Shadow's story, we see its knees buckle as the big concrete orbs smear any lizard standing in our way. From this point on, it's just more enemies in similar groupings. Our exit is identical, as is our fun freeway loop, and those are the hogs. But let's finally get our hands on the cat. Ah, Blaze, my favorite friend from vanilla. And this is the first time we get to control this freak, and it's fun as hell, even in the buggy world of 06. She's got the double jump, spins relentlessly into enemies, and has a homing attack that fires more like a bullet than a ball. She's more hedgehog than Silver at this point, so controlling her around any level is just more high-speed fun. But Blaze gets even weirder by going backwards through the high rises. Once Silver gets to the hole, Blaze enters it, and we see the other side of the loop, and a surprise rail hiding underneath that dash ramp for some reason. This chunk is essentially a 3-hit combo of tutorials. Double jump up to this loop, spin to clear the enemies, home to cross the gaps. Blaze is kind of like a mix between Son and Shad, as she does well with speed, but she's also fed a lot more monsters to take down. The adventure ends soon after, sadly, and Blaze's fun sojourn into Skyscraper is quickly cut short. Oh well, guess we'll just see you in the other 3D games, right? But hey, before we use our bingo bongo brain, let's see what the project adds to the mix. And we have boosted the vibes, people. Boosted them. There's a new tracking shot on the rooftop we circle around. No more explosion on our left, but many explosions inside as the windows snap at the speed of sound, and we actually do get to pick up those rings. Camera tracks from the spring rather than clipping through the wall, and that freeway collapses now. Congrats, Sonic. You can now go slower. Plus, that tornado is right by us, which connects with the ripped-apart rooftop. It looks like this thing swallowed all the remaining floors. It's the reason for our weird climb. This goes for Shadow, too. And yeah, about that cat. We got that nighttime aesthetic, of course. But again, cars are piled up, windows are flaming, and cracking, as we'd expect them to. It's visually distinct in a way that brings out the drama of this area. They didn't just patch the gameplay, they patched the spectacle. But like, they also patched the gameplay, because our roof has a helpful spring if we want to grind out early. The freeway drop forces a split path, and the ramp to the loop is now the rail we saw from Blaze's section. It makes the segment smooth and constant, no slowdown. Haywire High Rise is an exciting extravaganza as all 3 characters. In P06 and 006, it holds up pretty well, regardless of version, because it appropriately balances gameplay and spectacle. The shots are all cinematic, coloring things with wide angles and bursting worms, and even when we do get control, the combat lends itself to the situation. You kick down walls, freeways tumble, that last rooftop is as ripped apart as we'd suspect, and now we can use the bones of the building to escape, all culminating in a massive loop and some blockbuster glass shatter slowdown, aka it follows the agenda. Crisis City is a high-stakes action film, and you experience that vibe here as every character.
Wait!
Shelby, you two, what do you need?
Mail delivery. Got a letter from the boss. Says you left your phone on the freeway. He put it in the mailroom for you.
I thought the mailroom sank into lava.
It did, yeah, but he still went down there and put it in. He hates leaving things out. Oh, also, he said you're fired. Janitor this time.
I was never the janitor.
Hey, you're doing the loop next, right? That's great. I already made a drawing for you.
Shelby, I wasn't gonna make this Please don't tell me that's blood.
Not anymore. That's stomach acid.
All right, let's go over the loop quickly. Oh god, it's on my pants. Okay, loop time. Let's do this. Sonic goes through it, breaks some glass. Shadow goes through it, but we hold on him for a bit, then watch him below. What a bad boy. Blaze goes through it backwards. Aw, no glass shatter though. But in P06 there is. Yay! Silver, you don't get the loop. Here's some glass though. And Sonic and Shadow, you guys are gonna grind instead of jump in the land of the big P. No cut for Sonic though. Shit, we forgot Jens too. Well, guess what? It actually has the exact same camera shot as all 3 of our 06ers. And it follows him from behind like Shadow in 006. And Sonic in P06. Isn't that special? Silver, don't look at me like that, man. I'm sorry. And that's the loop. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I mean, what can I say? I'm already at 20k words on this thing. Whatever. Anyways, Jens is still suspended in Glass World, which is separate from the loop. If you remember, Sonic and Shadow are springing up like Jens, but they're going to a whole different place. Take a deep breath. We're entering the Ember Vortex. Prepare to be sucked by a vortex, a whirlwind of flame. We're now in the 4th map, Whirlwind, which has its own variation for Shadow. So the concept of this chunk is fantastic, even if it struggles to keep it real. You are high in the sky, caught in the eye of a swirling whirlwind, propelled with Mach speeds at skyscraper height, as Sonic clambers over the debris that is trapped with him. The presentation is high stakes, but the actual movement is pretty stiff. Although I can't imagine moving things more would make for an easy experience, especially not in Sonic 06. And let's start with the man himself. Sonic springs into the vortex, quite literally. There is a car with a spring floating behind him. We follow him from below as he careens over us and lands on a chunk of street. Here we go. Although the route is linear, the area is saved by the enemy placement. You hardly have to walk on concrete at all. You can just chain yourself through a lot of the section. There are some diverging paths, but they all connect pretty quickly, and the movement remains linear for the most part. Our last chunk is straightforward, but as the objects become smaller, the danger increases, until eventually only red-hot bats remain. The final spring takes you to some wall jumping, which for all of Sonic's awkward animations, this is the one time his wall jumps look solid. There's not enough room to forehead glide, so all he can manage is balling up at this close distance. And it looks natural all the way up to the end, and Sonic is out. While the visuals carry this section, I still enjoy the act of hopping across the rubble, as straight as it may be. Kind of like Gens, a lot of these platforms are wide enough to encourage you to keep your speed. You can thumbstick forward through all of this without much trouble. Combine that with the combos on the enemies and the shortcuts you learn to take yourself. It's a fun obstacle course before true hell begins. There's a lot of things you can add to spruce up this Ember Vortex, but it is effective as it stands. Stay for longer than a minute and you start to see the cracks. But let's make it worse and fly a glider through it. Shadow uses the same backdrop, but a whole new version of Map 4. Whirlwind variant, we'll call it. As there is no on foot here, Shadow soars past the rubble in his glider, and it's whatever. While I do believe it offers up some sort of challenge, it's just too simple. Shadow also seems like he should be going much faster than this thing. The speed of the glider does not match with the rapid wailing wind firing past us. This all results in the vortex feeling tacked on. A minute of filler, and then you're back to normal play. On Shadow's run through Crisis City, I think it's his worst part, and I wish they just stole from Sonic's layout again. And let's actually talk about Sonic again, because I want to see what the project does to him. What the hell? They made him blue? First off, rip the spring car, but at least this makes more sense. The layout is largely the same except for one key difference. Pole swinging is restored, I imagine, because there's some voice lines for it, but you now catapult off of street lights, and you won't lose any speed on your landing. Continuous movement, essential for a linear section. Thank you. Plus, you can catch more of the surrounding skyscrapers and the papers flying past. It's busy, as an Ember Vortex should be. And for Shadow, well, I'll give it one thing. You can double tap A and boost over the entire section if you hate the glider and your name is Shadow. Bro, right? So in the grand scheme of things, I think the set piece is a nice breather to mellow out the pacing right before the ultimate climax. It's small but essential. It carries the vibe through and relaxes your hands. While this scene was never referenced in Act 2 of Gens, it was heavily featured in Act 1. Classic Sonic's finale is built around this thing, and it's very clever. Kudos to the little guy. But we've had a lot of back-to-back 06-ness. Let's pause our boys as they tumble out of the vortex and switch back to Gens. There's an original arrangement for us, and boy do I have some opinions on it, at Spout Central. This should be the tagline for my channel. Spout Central is a heavy dose of 2D navigation tightly packed within 3 towers, not 2, and boy does that save me a lot of trouble. While I don't enjoy its placement in the stage, I do think the construction of this thing has some neat mechanics. So let's dissect. Once you pull all that glass out of your quills, the camera will point forward, and we're given an immediate branch in our path. But the 2 ledges converge pretty quickly, so it's not monumental. What is funny is taking the lower route will set you 3D for a brief moment. This is the only 3D ledge of this entire skyscraper, so soak it up. Otherwise, you dash ring up and then stomp crate down. Time out this fire spout and suddenly we're out in the open. Spout Central does a good job at painting the background of the level, even during its 2D. Sort of like Chemical Plant. This simple exterior gives us a taste of the Crisis City skyline, which for once shares the same orange muted haze that covers most of 06. But back inside, we're hit with the real gimmick of Spout Central, the spouts. Useful for later, but just an obstacle for now. Up ahead, we have our next diverging path, but just like our first, this thing connects back fairly quickly. The top portion will make you jump up to some stomp down boxes, and the bottom portion has another lava spout to flatten. It's a 2D split that doesn't do much for the casual player, nor does it offer any fun diversion. But onto the last tower. Our backgrounds are now evolving, becoming cluttered with buildings that block out the horizon, and we see deeper into the tower. And there's 3 of them, not 2. This is the 3rd tower. Why did they make it look so similar? Our 2D is also getting longer. Not many steps to stop you until you hit your next open air view. Anyways, slap the worm, stomp the crates. So this is our most significant split in Spout Central, as you're given a brief window to climb left before these slabs fall down. Doing this will set you right at the conclusion of your punishment path, so it's a worthy shortcut if you're paying attention. Plus, the bottom floor this time is tough. It asks you to stomp on 4 lava spouts, 3 of which are tiny. You can risk a boost, but you'll have a much safer time taking taking it by spout. Finally, we stomp down to our last chunk of tower, and it is truly spout central down here. You are trailed by a literal row of lava geysers, which consume the road below. If you're fast, you can escape on the slabs, but you risk getting trapped in between spouts if you fall. Out of all of my complaints on this sideway segment, I do love this ending bit. It plays with a new element it's introducing. You can choose how to direct yourself with the spouts. Plus, you feel their pressure too. I was never caught off guard on a smash, and they do smash you, which is delightful. It's a shame that it's secluded to this one little room, because once you pass this ensemble, you must deal with single spouts again, all the way until the end. We boost on forward and complete the central of spouts. And let's discuss, because I'm sure I'm not alone on this, but this might be the worst part of the stage for me. Spout Central is the only chunk of 2D in this entire stage, and unlike something like Skyscraper Scamper, it's not designed for the casual gamer to flow through it. It's jagged and cramped. You will encounter many steps to jump up, and any boosts can easily be defeated by the sneaky fire spouts littered throughout. If I'm being quite honest, this is typically where I quit the stage, which is a shame because the fire tornado awaits right after. My other issue is that it's not very dynamic as a sideways segment, because each diverging route immediately curves right back into itself. There is very little reward in navigating high because going low will lose you barely a second. I understand we don't want modern Sonic climbing through a maze in 2D, but the structure of the Central does seem to be attempting this to an extent. Track elements are few and far between to carry you forward, and you do a lot of jumping yourself. They had a great opportunity with the lava spouts here. That last room is fun to navigate, but it's secluded to the end. More of this throughout could have earned that patience that it's asking for here. But its biggest crime is that it breaks the pace of the level, because what follows is a straight shot lane switch parade, which doesn't ask too much in terms of 3D navigation. And I guarantee you had this thought too, but it all could have been saved if they just interrupted the Central with one portion of 3D. Just one. Just a little breather. There's even a natural spot for it, when you spring between the buildings. The camera almost looks like it wants to go 3D. I wonder if that was the original intention. As it stands, Crisis City is 4 platforming sections back to back, and then a lane switch set piece, which I wouldn't mind if they pace things out like they do with the street at the start or the loop. Just a little bit of that right here would do so much. Planet Wisp has a notorious 2D gauntlet in its second half as well, but they include a brief 3D interlude, which is such a breath of fresh air. As it stands, I don't think it's awful, but its positioning in the stage makes you really feel the slowdown. If you just cut this thing in half and moved it, you're golden. But I'm sure I'm pissing people off, and I'm sorry. We're all friends here, so let's get Adam out of the lava hole and into a giant fire tornado, where he belongs. But not in Generations, and not even with Sonic. We're pausing the blue blurs and switching back to 06 to see how Silver and Shadow fare. The Twister Turf War. Alright, let's tackle the last of City. It's a big place, but thankfully we got 2 hedgehogs to take it on. However, if you remember way back during District Destruction, aka Silver's start, I said Shadow went through that area as well. Now we're finally gonna see that, and we're gonna speedrun it too, because it isn't too grand. A brief way to describe Shadow's start in City, as with all of Shadow's levels, is just more. More enemies, more hazards, more platforming, more obstacles. You don't really get to demonstrate his speed until you get to that familiar toppled building, because guess who's back? The Buggy, which is mind-boggling because you can only drive him down the slope and that's it. You're even encouraged to cut to the right halfway, so this thing is maybe good for taking out some missile-hungry golems. Whatever. Shadow climbs more freeways, kills more stuff, and gets up to where Silver exited way back when. But instead of going left, Shadow goes right, and we finally get to use those rails I pointed out at the start. And now, we're officially done with the first half of City. But we're already with Captain Roller Skates, so let's keep going as him. So, rail time. You are pelted with automobiles, and without proper rail switching, you can't do much. Thankfully, with a bit of spinning, these things will go under you, rather than through you, but not all the time. But the fun stops there, as the middle rail will begin a long segment of Shadow grinding all around this raging tornado, and it drags on. Just like the Ember Vortex, I understand the spectacle they're selling here. Unlike the Ember Vortex, the ambiance doesn't prop it up at all. This spaghetti strand of a rail sticks out like a sore thumb. Shadow's slow circling comes off as comical with this insane disaster erupting right next to him. The second rail does things a little better. It gets close on Shadow so you don't see the weird rail, and swirls in a similar motion as our tornado. I'm normally not bugged by some generic Sonic geometry, but Crisis City is pretty damn good at keeping the setting believable. I'd imagine that was a big concern to keep with the grim atmosphere. Road loops and rail groups are stretching it, but this goes too far, IMO. Your crime was that you were too good everywhere else, Crisis City. But that's a tiny nitpick. Let's spring over to the second half of Map 3. And again, not much to say. Squash some bugs, walk down a collapsed building. It's a lot like the first half. You are doing a long walk until the end. And hey, that's the goal ring. And that's it. The ultimate life form is officially done. But don't move a muscle, because we need to switch over to Silver, the life form. And get this, he starts in this exact place. When Blaze returns from her little skyscraper sojourn, Silver is here to grab the baton, and now we're progressing backwards through the second half of City, aka everything we just saw. Kind of like Shadow's last portion, it's more of the same. No big switch ups, just a little harder this time. But this part is really cool, because right at the end, the tornado is like officially an active threat. You move this boy as fast as his little boots can take him, and the tornado hurls cars at you. Now, this is great. The tornado was just a background annoyance before, but here it's presented as this legitimate enemy. It's like this thing is looking at you. It's domineering. Sadly, the moment is short-lived, as you just walk a couple paces up, and then the perspective is switched back to normal. I'm sad they sequestered this element all the way at the end. Imagine if we had more of this throughout the stage, or even on this exact building. Something that mirrored Silver's battle in his final level with the spicy meatball, waiting behind cover and timing out blasts. I feel like this could have been a perfect place to introduce that concept, and that it could have made that last bit of flame core hit really hard, because we'd remember that we started the game avoiding Iblis's power, and now we're ending it by actively hunting it down and terminating it. Alas, this is it for the tornado. Quite literally, because the goal ring hangs below, and the windscreen doesn't even point at the damn thing. But holy shit, we finished with Silver too! 2 whole hedgehogs down! And we can officially cross City off the list now that Shadow got there. We're doing so good! But we must take one last look at these 2 hedgehogs through the power of the project. As always, the layout isn't changed much, and the visuals have been touched up. However, with Project 06's handling, this final fight fest is much more enjoyable. You had to work through it before, but in the project, you want them to keep dishing it out. Shadow can rage out on all those worms, and it's even encouraged because you have no buggy to do your dirty work. And for Silver, the wider camera shots make you want to hunt down every last lizard hiding in the sidelines. The project also remains faithful with my issues, however. Shadow's grind spin is still slow, and Silver just gets one stint of tornado focus. But these are small prices to pay, and changes that I think would make more people angry rather than make one man happy. Me. I'm that man. Also, you can finally rail switch on the grind. And they correctly nudged the camera to actually show the tornado on Silver's windscreen. Thank you. So, while the Twister Turf War is more of the same, there aren't any glaring issues present. There's just not much of a climax either. You get slivers of it with the camera change and Shadow's rail, but nothing compares with the climax that's coming up for Sonic, which is kind of emblematic of how these 3 characters take Crisis City. Sonic is the action movie I keep referring to, Shadow is the same film, impeded by enemies, and Silver's is a gameplay-heavy gauntlet, reminiscent of Generations' feature-focused design. And this final area rings true for the last 2 guys. My complaints lie in the spectacle, and that says a lot about me, doesn't it? Otherwise, I tell them to ship it, it works. Wait, you put the rail switching in there, right? Oh shit. Anyways, everyone is off the list, except for one final blue boy. Sonic the Hedgehog is preparing to sprint down our final map, Highway, at Mach speeds, in a terrifying showcase of carnage that I like to call Tornado Alley. That tornado is carrying so much more than a car in 06 and in 11. Both games tackled this set piece in vastly different ways, and we have so much to get into on both of them. So buckle up and prepare to finally speed down Highway. This might be the worst bit in all of 06. If we look at it as like an actual video gamey game, did they test this is way too overdone. But seriously, did they not run through here once? It feels like they programmed the tornado with their eyes closed. Like they inputted values on a command prompt and hope for the best. Turn on the monitor, man. It's been off the whole time. It's like accidentally difficult, which is the weirdest way to put it, but it screams cool in theory, horrible in execution. I know I'm being mean, but the fire tornado is abnormally difficult when compared to the rest of this game. It rapid fires these grenades of cars, each muffler ready to tear your 300 rings to 0. There is no rhyme or reason, no calculable rhythm to follow, as you must equally avoid every box, tube, and enemy at Mach speeds. You must jump, you cannot turn. Even on your feet when left and right is returned to you, it's all just guesses. They flip the camera twice, it snaps too fast, it eases too slow, and it goes on for a full minute. 60 seconds of spinning the roulette wheel. Where will the sedan land next? The real Crisis City starts here. And I still kinda like it. Full admission, this is so bad it's good territory for me. I cannot defend anything served up here, but for a moment that wanted to scare me, I was definitely terrified. The music track of this section mirrors the uncontrollable chaos as you sprint deeper down the highway to hell. The beat is making my ears shake, and someone is tearing that guitar apart. It is certainly a sick visual, if there ever was one, and it's such a vicious climax. The first half is by far the hardest. You're dealt with everything right out the gate. Once you survive the first tornado reveal, things get way easier. You get no more jumps and a lot more breathing room. The enemies that appear will rarely harm you, and after you survive your second swap, you're through. If you want my full survival guide, stick to the corners, zigzag as you watch for wheels, jump early so you land fast, swerve the tornado like you're running from a crocodile, careful with the light speed as you might speed into impact zones, and go to church. A lot of my frustrations lie with this freeway ultimately deciding your S rank. 50k is tough, even with a fast time and a lot of dead lava lads. Your rings will easily pop you over the top, but you can lose them here without much say in the matter. You can gain them back, but then you can equally lose them again. It's just so hard to plan, and it comes at the end anyways, which makes your journey before seem inconsequential. But even 10-year-old Adam can recognize that this is cool. And 68-year-old Adam can't help but laugh at the way this thing operates. I mean, it's just so cruel, man. It's so mean. How can a tornado be mean? The cars feel like they're shot out of a gun, and they're so direct. I'm losing my mind behind gritted teeth thinking, why do you want to hurt me? I'm 10. Needless to say, Project 06 has a lot of work to do. So let's see how they transform the highway in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, the highway works! Project 06 updates Mach speed to allow sliding, bouncing, and turning in midair. Thank you. So, navigation is now manageable to deal with the destruction. But because of this, the challenge has been nerfed a lot. Things are only fired at you on the reverse shot, so moving forward has you dodging slow rubble. The route is also cleared of a lot of obstacles. Things are very open, which unfortunately makes Sonic's slower speed stand out during the run. Things appear faster in vanilla because you're dodging so much. In P06, Sonic can kind of just follow the divider line and live to tell the tale. I feel like I'm being psyoped to enjoy the 06 run more. I'm complaining about not having an unfair encounter, and I'm losing my mind. I'm crazy, don't listen to me, but I cannot lie, a bit of the thrill is dampened. It's doing everything correctly, and yet it still somehow comes off as less. Maybe a bit of jank does elevate Sonic games, as much as I'd hate to admit it. But I don't think all is lost, because this one little moment here scared the crap out of me. It's a near miss, saved only by this light dash, and pulling it off felt exhilarating. I wonder if more movements like that could reintroduce both the challenge and the fear, because as much as I love the laser-guided cars, reintroducing them could turn the highway back into a guessing game. So keeping them on only the reverse shot is smart. I don't know, there's like too much you can do here that I can't offer any simple solution. And I shouldn't, because it works now. Duh. But Project 06 does more than fixing the handling, right? Let's give the visuals its flowers. Proper introduction to the scene, as Sonic acknowledges the tornado behind him before mocking off. Reducing that neon ember in the center lets us see the wind circling around the vortex, whipping cars left and right. Also the lightning in the center, excellent addition. Clear too, with the blue against red. Slowing down will also have you feeling the heat as fire envelops your screen, and we love to feel the games, don't we? But holy shit, the greatest part that redeems all my insane ramblings. The tornado throws a goddamn flaming semi into your path, and you must jump over it as it explodes with your flip into the goal ring. Where the hell did that come from? It's superb. Anyways, with both of our Sonics posing on our road, we have officially finished every version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. But to wrap up Crisis City itself, we need to know how Gens transforms this set piece 5 years in the future. And oh my, what a transformation. Generations treats the highway as a lane switch obstacle course, and it is very layered, believe it or not. All my life I've chased the top layer, but this road goes places, and so shall we. First off, all those fire spouts saluting you before you run, you gotta love it. Once the camera pulls up from them and aims down the street, we get a familiar triangle shape from two buildings leaning on each other, which creates a perfect little window for us to see the tornado. Now we start skipping past fire spouts as boulders pelt down on us. What I appreciate is that the boulders are grayish white, which means they shine when the sun hits them, and that helps us catch them. Even better is that our only two cars are yellow taxis and bright red sedans. I'm focusing on this because I'm frankly surprised how well I do dodging these things. They speed by pretty fast, but none ever surprise me. So originally I had like 7 paragraphs written about the actual layout of this road. For those who don't know, it's got a lot of optional routes, but let's see if I can't keep things short and sweet. The bottom layer gets you a roof over your head. Oh, that's nice. But cars will still make it through the left side. The real obstacle is that far more fire spouts reside down here, so you'll need to focus more forward than upward. Staying flat all the way will wide spring you up onto this big metal grate, and they serve up some enemies. It feels very weird to pause and fight on the tornado freeway, but sure enough, you can. Home the fire bats, and we finish the bottom layer. Middle layer has a ton of entrances. Big ramp at the front, of course, but there's also thinner roads in the middle, and at the end. We can dash jump on the left and take this tiny line up to the middle ending. Another surprise is that there are some safety streets in case you fall down on your right, in between both the bottom and middle layer. These just contain dash rings that will send you all the way to the floor. Our middle ending also has two endings itself. Right side will spring you to the final platform, but boosting down the left will grind you straight into the air. And this one's fun, because the camera pulls up to show the top of the tornado, before dropping you onto a brand new area, with Iblis takers waiting to ferry you to the goal ring. Finally, our top route is short, but also gets two fun endings. Oh boy. One is a straight dash ramp into dash rings, but this one is kind of slow, since it puts you at the bottom of the last platform. However, if we lane switch around this fire spout, we can snag a surprise rail, jump at the end of that, and you've wasted no time at all. Incredible. And all that being said, holy shit, there's a lot of routes on this thing. They accounted for each and every drop-off. Anywhere you could possibly make a mistake, there's more road for you. And even better, there's a new road for you. There's this huge assortment of directions that I never took, but I might know why, because succeeding at this thing is unfortunately very easy. Sure, you might eat some car, but it certainly doesn't stop you from going up, does it? Plus, the first ramp is so wide, it kind of coaxes you over there to begin with. Since this is a Sonic game, we want to go as high as we can, right? Which means I always took what I believed was the opportune path, because there was no huge risk at falling down below. It's honestly a shame. If there's one thing I want out of Jen's Tornado Alley, is for it to be harder, because I wish I discovered all these places through my mistakes. It's awesome. And I also think it's a fantastic translation of our Mach speed set piece, now in a boost environment. The lane switching to dodge the debris is so the move here. The real accomplishment is how layered they made this thing. And regardless of which direction you took, the adventure up there was endlessly exciting. You get so many near misses with the rubble. It seems much harder than it actually is. I feel like if they just put a couple more holes in that middle layer, players would have witnessed so much more of this thing. Oh well. But hey, with two tornadoes out of the way, our Sonics pose for the goal and complete Crisis City. Whoa!
And that's how I open envelopes without any arms.
Hey, kid, you won't believe what I'm holding.
Is it my phone?
No, it's Silver's phone. Found it under the fridge. And let me say, there's a cat on the lock screen.
Whoever Shadow is, she is gonna be pissed.
Shelby, did you eat my phone?
Well, you left it out. I thought you were done with it.
You know what? Enjoy it. Just be happy, Shelby. I want you to be happy. I'm gonna go end all of this.
It was just a lava bat. I'm okay. It was just coming at me. I'm alive. I'm fine. I'm okay.
Alright, the tornado is coming to pick me up any minute. How does Crisis City make you feel? In Sonic 06, I feel like I'm in a fan fiction. Like, literally. Can we all just acknowledge how insane this is? Sonic the Hedgehog, blue naked guy in red shoes, is skating around the most bleak, cataclysmic backdrop plucked straight from Nostradamus' nightmares. This is not Green Hill. This is a human city, our city, after a nuke went off. A major metropolitan center sinking into the molten core of the Earth. Like, this is serious, guys. And that's why I say fan fiction, because this is exactly how I wanted Sonic to be taken at the time. Seriously. I did not like Sonic 06 when I was 10, but I won't lie that I put him in this city thousands of times before that game even came out. I was craving gritty, brutal realism in my preteens, and Crisis City was that place. It's my favorite guy acting assertive in a merciless setting, a scenario I could only find drafted by other fans online. Something I could only read about in the notepads of DeviantArt, and seeing it in action was staggering. It was Shadow holding that gun in that May 4th EGM magazine in 2005. Sonic was real. He wasn't for kids if he could survive a place like that, and that is exactly what Sonic 06 wants to assert. As I said at the start, this stage is an action blockbuster, and every segment and set piece works to tell that story. Sheetboarding down sideways buildings, flying past skyscrapers, running from tornadoes. It feels feels like a string of fantastic moments, all there to sell you the thrill. And that's what I think is its biggest strength. It knows how to make this stage a moment, which helps me look past the actual layout, because for Sonic 06, I think this is one of the weaker levels in terms of design. 06 excels in stage design when it keeps things open, but Crisis City is very linear. As Sonic, most of your alt routes reconnect quickly, and they offer little in terms of bonuses. Shadow encounters a similar issue, but his stage is weighed down even more through its piling of combat. Silver, miraculously, holds pretty strong here. His first level is one of his best. It's well layered, catered to his playstyle, and even the Blaze interlude is a great tutorial and breather in between Future Boy's problem solving. Silver's might be my favorite in design, and yet I still lean towards Sonic because he's not going for layout. He's going for spectacle. That's my thing, man. And Project 06 really ups the wow factor with all the details they're drizzling in. It makes for a smoother functional experience for Sonic, an engaging combat corridor for Shadow, and Silver's aesthetic flip might be my favorite in all of his levels. Suddenly, all three of our hedgehogs perform wonderfully in an overhauled Apocalypse, which brings out the thrill even more, which means we end up with 2 separate Crisis Cities, maybe even 6, that all sell that movie. And that is really fascinating when we compare it with Gens's remix, because in Generations, they turned this into a platform-centric capital L level. It feels like they laid down the city first and then painted the Crisis around it. Think of how little I looked at the background on this one. That's because Generations is not showing it. It is pointing down at our route. It's focused on the platforms. But they don't abandon the aesthetic of the Crisis, because what's below the street? The lava! They realized you'd be more concerned with the floor, so they brought up the old hazard beneath it, and made it the main motif here. A lot of the old spectacle is sidelined, but it isn't dropped entirely, because they tuck it in between their gameplay moments. Big loop, crisscross building bounce, glass shatter, these are highlighted as transitions, but when we're boots on the ground, Generations does things its own way. One of those Gen remixes that strays so far from the original that we end up with a brand new stage, rather than a remaster. And I respect that. It's funny, this stage has a lot of things I don't enjoy, and yet it's a big replay contender for me, and I definitely pin that on the setting. The music, with the Apocalypse, with my memories, it was always such a blast to run through, such a triumphant level. Against all odds, against all sedans, Sonic prevails. It's so cool, man, it's awesome. I can't believe Sonic 06 happened, man. I can't believe that Crisis City was in it, and I can't believe they continue to acknowledge it years later. This grimdark disaster flick should have been shamefully stowed away, but they put it on their chest and led with it in that final Generations chunk. It honestly sticks out way too much in white space, sandwiched between the happiest places on Earth, but Crisis City happened, and we're all genuinely here for it. It's a first pick in 06 because of its moments, and it's something I gotta brace myself for in Generations. But both games hold up the apocalyptic aura of Crisis City. Minus 1 point to Gens, however, because it never used the half pipe, even though you put it on your model. Explain yourself! But how does Crisis City make you feel? Is it a spectacle powerhouse? Is it a little rough around the edges? Why is Blaze so cool? All of these questions I need answered from you. Also, if anyone has any funny grimdark fanfictions of Sonic in this place, then I'm gonna need a 1-sentence summary. Sorry, them's the rules. Anyways, Crisis City has been on the back of my mind for a while. Ever since Kingdom Valley. It's been a long time coming. I jumped right into it the day after I put out Arid Sands, and it still took me this long. Yikes. But to be honest, this one took a lot out of me, and I want to get my mind off of levels for a bit. So we're going to take a weird swing and do a new behind the scenes video next on this very vid. I'll be taking you through my whiteboard step by step, and we'll see how I cobbled all this crap together. But I want to make this a Q&A video too. Kinda. So here's the deal. I'm gonna make a community post in a couple days asking for questions. Anything about my creative process or even just questions on how I did things in this vid will be layered into the behind the scenes video. Any other random questions that don't fit into that criteria, we'll make a whole separate video for. Again, I'll make a community post / social post, so save your questions for there so I don't miss them by accident. Also, any questions on what levels I'd look at, check this vid because I might have answered them there. But hey, if you enjoyed this video, please do like the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments of the video. And stick around with a subscribe button under the video, I think it's there. We're halfway through 2025 now, and we've been hitting the big requests, but there's still so much more to go. So join the Ajax train and stay tuned. Okay, the Ajax break starts now. Just kidding. I'm probably just gonna sit in front of my computer all week and answer comments. If I'm slow to respond, I'm probably playing Deltarune or some shit. Apologies. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for waiting. Love you guys. And, peace. Bye.